All right, everyone, welcome back into another NBA props video. Going to be jumping into the top prop bets here for the NBA on Sunday. It's a 4-game slate. Let's go ahead and get in. All right, so we're going to be starting out with this Detroit versus New York game. Looking at it, guys, it is a game in which Detroit is favored by 2 points to win. The over and under is set at 217. The biggest piece of news that we are waiting on for this game in terms of props betting is actually Isaiah Stewart. If Isaiah Stewart is active in this game, that actually does hurt Jalen Duren a decent amount, especially points-wise. Jalen Duren is someone that averages 7.5 less points per 36 with Isaiah Stewart on the court. Now, that is projecting, obviously per 36-wise, neither of those players are going to play 36 minutes, but the point still stands. He does take a pretty big reduction in terms of his production. The rebounds actually stay about the same for Jalen Duren, but the assists go down 3.7. The steals go down by 1 as well. And then overall, just like his fantasy score goes down by 5.7 as well with Isaiah on the court. So the flip side of that would be that when Isaiah Stewart is off the court, Jalen Duren does benefit a decent amount. And so to me, what's interesting right now is one of the better bets that we were getting on the board is Jalen Duren to get under 34 for his fantasy score, which again, he could end up getting that if Isaiah Stewart is active in this game. Actually, it becomes a much more likely bet to hit if Isaiah Stewart is active in this game. We look at the first game in this series. Isaiah Stewart was active in that game. It had 25 minutes in that game. Did Duren, and then obviously the last 2 games has gotten more minutes. And so again, that's the biggest part of this equation. Okay, so love the fact that Vegas is maybe suggesting that Isaiah Stewart is going to sit, but also just love the fact that Vegas is already giving us that reduction in its projection. The issue is all the other data points that we have coming in kind of suggest that Jalen Duren could actually have a good game, especially those minutes. The issue with this bet is it's not foolproof on paper, okay? We're looking at it. We could see that this could end up being a very good spot for us, again, especially if less than his fantasy score is actually going to be one of the better bets that I should start with for the day. If Isaiah Stewart does end up being inactive, maybe we come back in and check the cheat sheet and just make sure that that one is still popping up as a good or bad bet for say. We'll have to check that out. From there, let's go ahead and take a peek at some other prop bets that we have here for Detroit. And that's where the board is actually going to get a little bit thinner in terms of the prop bets we'd want to be targeting. Cade Cunningham to get under 10 shot attempts, not exactly a bet that I want to go crazy with. Heavily favored to get under 10.5 per Vegas odds, but not a bet that I think we need to go crazy with. From there, just looking at the not too much. Then, if you want to go Jalen Duren with his points, again, then we'd run Stewart's active. Then he obviously takes a big hit there. If he's not active, then it's a pretty good bet for him to get over his. Interesting bet. We are seeing some different lines via some of the sportsbooks as well in terms of the expectations. And then from there, guys, we are getting another pretty solid bet on paper in this game. Moving on into the next side of this game, it's going to be OG to get under his fantasy as well. So if we look at the projections for OG, he is going to get heavy minutes. Okay, 43 minutes. And that's always a concern when we're betting on someone that's just getting heavy minutes, especially a guy where it's under a point per minute. Now, he's not exactly a point per minute player as is. He has gotten the under in 2 straight games here in this series as well. Did get the over, had a very good game in the first game as well. But it's not, I just don't love the fact that the projection data, all the other data points besides Vegas, is obviously a combination stat, tells us to bet the over. It's going to be a bet that I get to, not a bet that we get heavy volume on, which has really been the theme of the playoffs, which again, not too shocking. We don't have a lot of players that are typically out, which typically gains us some big edges, but did want to call that one out. From there, we have Josh Hart. We're starting to get down in the bets out of a lower percent likelihood for PrizePicks and Underdog purposes. Again, we typically don't want to bet on these bets, but they are there, so worth calling out to you guys. Josh Hart, if you wanted to, could do his over rebounds and assists. BetMGM actually is heavily favoring the over at -140, so I'm doing this video the day before. It wouldn't be shocking to see maybe all the other books get the same odds as BetMGM, or BetMGM gets closer to making it a. That's part of the advantages of getting the early edges on these bets, but did want to call that one out there as well. Another interesting one, again, with Josh Hart would actually be on PrizePicks to bet on his over 9 rebounds. The issue is he's heavily favored to get under 9.5, but the line is at 9.5. So that tells me that he's probably going to get to 9 rebounds there. And then one other one I just want to call out as well for OG is actually on Underdog at 22.5. It's actually a decent bet for his under there for his points and rebounds at 22.5. At that line, it's probably correct. But again, the projection data and whatnot does actually And now let's go ahead and jump on into the next game, which is going to be the Lakers versus Minnesota. So let's start with a game preview. Minnesota is actually favored by 3.5 points in this game, and the over and under set at 209. So not terribly high scoring, but not as well for playoff purposes at least. Looking at it just right out the back, guys, sorted by the game props that we're getting. I'm doing this on purpose to make sure the video doesn't go too long. We're really not getting great spots, I would say, on paper. Again, for PrizePicks and Underdog purposes, it's worth calling out some spots that we have here. I actually don't mind the idea of betting Austin Reeves maybe for his over points and rebounds, specifically sportsbook wise. It's just worth calling out some of those odds that we were getting there, guys. So like if you like the over on Bovada, you could do plus 105 there. And the whole reason is because all the other data points are actually in the green there. They're telling us about the overs, and that's kind of the theme with that we are getting here. Hachimura for over his points of 11.5 again could be a good sportsbook bet, not a good PrizePicks Underdog bet. And for those of you that might be new to the channel, the whole, obviously most of you guys hopefully know this, PrizePicks Underdog, we can make good long-term bets, which are going to be bets that are 54% likelihood to hit. Whereas, obviously betting on more traditional sites is a little bit different because it's very rare that lines are off from sports books. And so this is kind of my way of pointing out that maybe we do have a slight edge with the points, even though the last 2 games has not gone the over. You could argue actually do to get the over then. Minnesota does run out multiple bigs though, so that as well. But all the data points do like is over. From there, awesome rebounds for over 4.5. If you guys like that one, could get there. Got to 5 in the last game. But yeah, just not much here in this game, unfortunately. No need to force it. Let's go ahead and jump on into the next game. So jumping into Boston versus Orlando, Jaylen Brown is currently questionable in this game, and Drew Holiday is still ruled out in this. And so let's just take a peek at which players actually benefit the most minutes-wise with Drew Holiday off the court. Peyton Pritchard's number 1 in terms of minutes with Drew Holiday off the court. Then Derek White, then Tatum, then Sam Hauser, then Jaylen Brown, then Luke Cornett as well. And so if we just talk about which players actually benefit the most as well, in terms of those players that are going to get minutes, Jaylen Brown's actually the one that benefits the most. Averages 2.9 more points per 36, okay? A little bit less rebounds, which is interesting, but only 0.6. Does average 1.5 more assists, so round that up to 6 there. And then about 4.4 more fantasy points per 36 as well. So definitely interesting to note that. Peyton Pritchard, the player that gets the most minutes with him off the court, does actually tend to get a good points, rebounds, and also assist bump, all about 1 there as well, so about 3 more. Unfortunate side is in the last game against Orlando, only 26 minutes in that game, really didn't do in that game, and so that's kind of a wrinkle there as well. Now, just real quickly, we'll touch on it. If Jaylen Brown is off the court, who should we be expecting to pick up the slack the most? In terms of players that are going to get minutes, it would be Tatum. Okay, Tatum averages about 8 more points per 36. Now, obviously, the issue for him and really Boston is the Magic are typically a very good defense. Derek White then benefits the most after that, guys. 2.9 more points per 36. We have seen him getting heavy run as well, obviously playing pretty darn well in the playoffs thus far. He averages 1.3 more assists as well per 36 with Drew Holiday and Jaylen Brown off the court. So interesting spots there for Boston. And so it's worth calling out. Derek White, for under his fantasy score, is one that's a little bit uncomfortable, honestly. Okay. And I think it's probably just due to him more than likely having a bad game. I don't like the game log when we look at it. He has been crushing lately. That's a concern to me. I'm kind of just thinking Vegas might be a little bit wrong here. And it is early. Like we take a look at some of the other lines that we're gaining for him. Like, for example, rebounds and assists, guys. We only have 3 books coming in for him right now. This will probably be triple that by game time, maybe even more than that. We get more lines come. And so I'm just calling that out. We have a small sample size that's going into his fantasy score right now. And so I just think accumulatively, the books are maybe not properly valuing him right now, fantasy score wise. And part of that is due to stuff like him being heavily favored to get under 9.5 rebounds and assists. But that being said, this is one of the better bets that we are getting on the day today as well. So like the 3 best bets that we have, one, Stewart, we're worried, or Jalen Duren under fantasy, we're worried about Jalen Duren being active. Derek White, same thing there, where if Jaylen Brown ends up on top of Drew Holiday, then we don't like that aspect there as well. Now from there, Corey Joseph under 2.5 rebounds is an okay bet, 52.4% likelihood to hit. But again, all of those are in the green, so that's kind of the issue there. Corey Joseph as well for his rebounds and assists. Definitely interesting there, where we had this one that's telling us to bet the over slightly, a 51% likelihood for that one to hit. And then the rebounds, guys, at 2.5, 52.4% for the under to hit there. Interesting lines. I did want to call out to you guys if there's a side you guys like with that one a little bit more. I'm assuming a lot of people are going to like the under 2.5 rebounds just because he has, really lately not been doing well. From there, Porzingis with his points, rebounds is another interesting one to call out. Finally had a good game last game with Jrue Holiday off the court. For what it's worth, per 36, and he might not get 36 minutes, projecting him to get 34 minutes, but he does average 27 points, 8.4 rebounds, and 2.5 assists with Jrue Holiday off the court. So that may be not too shocking that he had a good game last game with Jrue Holiday off the court. Those are, all slight bumps for him. Well, points-wise, he does average 3.8 more points with Jrue Holiday off the court. So at least we know that a little bit of a decent spot there. And again, that's going to be more of a traditional. Let's go ahead and get into the last game of the slate, Milwaukee versus Indiana. So this Milwaukee versus Indiana series has basically been every Milwaukee Bucks season or the past 3 postseasons, where the games are kind of fun in a sense that a team maybe mounts a comeback, but they all just blowouts at the end of the day. And so it's very interesting and knowing in that the Bucks are going to be favored by 4.5 points. And wouldn't be surprised if they win by more than that, even like triple that. You could also say vice versa. That's just been the nature of the Bucks postseason. They're either blowing teams out or they're getting blown out. Now, I will say one of the more interesting spots to me in this game is actually, so Lillard has been playing pretty terribly the past 2 games against Indiana. And obviously still trying to find his feet from being out for over a month, guys. And so that is a little bit of concern, but I do think it's worth calling out. Like, he has taken 12 and 13 shot attempts the last 2 games and has made 6 shots total in the between those 2 games. It would not be shocking at all to see Damian Lillard finally have a good game. These are kind of the spots I should like to target. These players that we know are better players than they're showing here, and obviously just due for a big game as well. You look at the match with the Pacers, it's a good matchup as well. I kind of like a lot of the overs just because I think we should be expecting him to show up. He got 37 minutes in the last game while struggling in that game as well. Had 8 3-point attempts in both those games. And so I'm looking at this actual underdog line at 29.5. I think we want to be targeting that over a little bit more. So on underdog, guys, I think that's a good spot. Again, he is just to have a good game, and that's the spot I want to be targeting. So from there, we'll just jump into the rest of the good prop bets that we have in this game. And we're not really getting any. If we want to make Haliburton for over his 42 fantasy points work, we can get there. I don't know if I necessarily need to get there with him. All the data points are pretty much suggesting that, but they're suggesting that it's going to be a close one. Okay, he is only getting 35 minutes. You'd want to get a little bit more there as well. And again, given maybe the nature of how these games have been kind of blowouts one way or the other, I don't know if I necessarily need to get there. Miles Turner for over his points, rebounds, and a 21.5 is a decent one. A lot of these plays are all in the green here. So if you like any of the over bets for these that are being called out, some traditional sports picks as well, by all means. Now, before we go ahead and get to the 9 to 5 bet of the day, do want to call it the 9 to 5 membership. If you guys want access to the NBA cheat sheet or any other tools available on the 9to5sports.com website for PrizePicks, Underdog, or also fantasy golf, head on over to 9to5sports.com, get access to all the tools for just $10 a month, guys. Great value. I priced it that way for you guys so you don't have to spend a lot of money on a membership while trying to recoup that money in betting. And it's really just the fourth of a price a lot of other companies. All right, so just a simple 2-slip bet, guys. Once we get the news on Isaiah Stewart, we can make a better educated decision on whether or not we want to go with the Jalen Durham prop bet. Same thing does apply with Derek White. If we get news that Jaylen Brown is indeed out, I wouldn't suggest placing this bet. I'm sure the data will bump up Derek White a decent amount with the score line, actually. A little bit of difficult spots with some of those injury spots, but that's kind of the beauty of props betting in the NBA. That's going to do it for this video. Appreciate you guys being here. Make sure to give a like and subscribe to the channel on your guys' way out. Thanks for watching. Good luck with our bets. And as always, let's keep cashing.